All right, how the hell do we start this?
I kind of feel like we already did. You ready to play some D&D?
No, I don't want to do any more D&D.
We're doing something else. I think it's okay to kind of talk our way into it.
All right.
You know?
All right.
That's pretty genuine.
All right. How is this more awkward than doing the actual D&D podcast?
There's a lot more eye contact.
Yeah.
Sustained eye contact.
I hate that. I've never spent more time thinking about my body posture than I have in the last 10 minutes.
Right. Like, there's nothing natural about this. So we just have to lean into the fact that this is a little strained.
Did the music just come on?
No, but like a whoosh just happened.
It freaked me out a little bit. That's actually a pretty good center point. It scared me. It was loud. It was
I put it right by your ear.
So I would know.
Hello, audience.
He's better at this than
Hello,
I am.
YouTube. Welcome to YouTube Twin Portals. Twin Portals Season 3. Twin Portals, the franchise era. Twin Portals, the future. My name's Matthias Valero, and this is my co-host.
I'm Scott Hebert.
Scott Hebert, director of Twin Portals. We've kind of both called ourselves director.
Yeah.
I would call Scott like the truest, like hardworking, at putting effort into grant writing. And
We kind of divvied it up early on, and I actually think they're still good titles.
Yeah.
Producing director and creative director.
Yeah.
Like all storyline stuff runs through you, and that's the way it should be. I love, especially as a player, I love being just clear of all that. And then I've handled like the tech, the grant writing, a bunch of the scheduling stuff too. Yeah, it's been a beast of a workload for a while.
Yeah, you've kicked a lot of butt.
It's been a while. I'm also the one who doesn't have any kids, is only marginally employed, very, very low plans for the future. So
You're the one who's free and creative and hardworking.
Sort of.
And humble. So what we're doing here today is
taking it from me.
We're putting on a show on video. Scott's been working on his video editing skills and technique for a while. He's quite good at it. He's making some amazing stuff on our Discord and sharing it. He won't talk himself up, but it's true.
That's an upsell a little bit.
It's awesome.
Thank you.
And so I'm really excited to put our story on video and to start trying new things on video. So for today, we just want to kind of keep it low key and talk about our past, our present, our future.
And it's all going to change. This is all an evolution. It's actually like the 5th gen, I think, is if I'm counting all of the different equipment things that we've done.
Right.
It's like the 5th time we've had some huge major overhaul in 4 or 5 years, 6 years, maybe something like that. Like each year there's some huge other thing for everyone to try to conquer.
Yeah. I mean, mainly for you, Scott. Like,
no, everyone's had to deal with the stuff.
Yeah. But like,
and worse, they have to deal with me dealing with the stuff.
That's like theater tech though, like there's always new elements coming and going. And I would say like the rest of us have been the actors and performers, whereas you've been like the tech director, like being like, okay, guys, none of you get it, but like, listen, I will explain to you. And we're all like, yes, Scott, thank you. Tell us more.
Oh, no, God.
I'll try to be less plosive, Scott.
I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to have those conversations anymore.
Well, you're very good at it.
I don't want to be that person. We started Twin Portals. It's a D&D podcast. You've seen a few episodes in this channel. Most of the episodes were podcast form. First 6 years. Really. First 50-some episodes were just audio.
Since last year, yeah.
Yeah, we started in July of 24 putting stuff onto video. Recording stuff on video. It didn't all get uploaded until March of this year. I just got it all done after I had learned all of these skills.
Should we get into kind of like dial the clock way back and kind of walk through our history, like first like our own past and then like how we started doing our D&D show, our D&D game and then our D&D show. And then
let's go way past. Let's make this more conversational. Let's get it more casual. Let's talk about how we started gaming.
Yeah.
Let's talk about our first gaming memories.
Yeah.
Let's talk about things like that. I know mine pretty well. I'm happy to start.
I'd like to hear yours.
My dad was a big gadget guy. Go figure. And I got passed it right on down to me. All this stuff in here.
That's actually really poetic and sweet.
Very much so. He loved gadgets. He had a computer in the house, a Commodore 64, in the mid 80s. And so my first console was a PC. Learned how to, before we had the cartridge system, I knew how to put discs into the disk drive and then type run star.exe. Dad taught me run star.exe. He taught me that star was the wild card and that .exe was the executable. And I would do that for the next 10, 15 years as I played games on MS-DOS.
What were your favorite DOS games? Do you remember?
Silent Service.
I don't know that one.
That was Dad's favorite game. It was from a company called Microprose, one of the developers named Sid Meier. And it was about being a World War II sub-pilot in the Pacific.
Sounds like Sid Meier.
So you were the captain of a sub, and you were harassing Japanese convoy lines. And it was kind of like a arcade mode where you just left midway, went out, did your stuff, and then came back. End of game, got your score, things like that. I would hear stories later on, long after my dad died, from my mom about being woken up at 4 a.m. to the sound of him cursing out the computer as he got depth charged by the Japanese before he could get back after taking down an aircraft carrier or something like that. Something I would also do for many, many years of my life.
Nice.
Just stay up too late and get frustrated at the digital complaints.
Well, yes.
Then, rolled right into Nintendo and PlayStation and all the way through. Always been a gamer. Tabletop didn't start until much, much later in life for me. So how about your childhood for gaming stuff?
Well, I was kind of the gamer of my family. My parents were not like super techie people. I think they kind of encouraged me to it. And I always felt like they were always trying to get me to like go outside more. But when I look back at my past, like they definitely let me play a lot of games. And like my dad kind of subtly like would challenge me to like do better. And he'd like play it when I wasn't around and be like, look, I beat your high score or whatever, and like that kind of thing. But my grandparents had a Super Nintendo, and so they had 4 games. It was Super Mario World, Yoshi's Island, Super Star Wars, and Super Mario Kart. And I played those games for years and years and years. I also had an old Apple II that my dad handed me down, and so I played Wolfenstein 3D and Tetris.
Wow.
And a couple other random games.
I don't think of Wolf being on the Apple, but
it was like the original one, black and white. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Oh, monochrome or black and white? Like was it the green?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. It was, so maybe not the Apple II, but an old Apple with a floppy disk drive.
Yeah.
But then, so for D&D, like, I didn't know what D&D was until like my middle school years, but I remember vividly moving to Eau Claire, Wisconsin, when I was about 7 or 8 years old. And in the basement of that house, it was like a scene from a 90s story movie, like Neverending Story or Jumanji, where the kid like goes in the attic and like dusts off the old book and is like, what is this? You know
who else like great for that? Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Perfect. More up-to-date take, but same experiences.
Yep. Yeah. So in the basement of the house that we moved to in Eau Claire, there was a box with a bunch of maps in it. And I did not know what these maps were from or anything, but it was from the 2nd edition D&D set I learned decades later. Like these huge interlocking maps of the entire Forgotten Realms.
Man.
And so like I plotted out adventures in these fantasy in like, the Anaurok Desert and like the Sword Coast and Chult and everything. Like it was all in there. The endless ice, not knowing that it was like related to D&D at all. And also just as a kid, like I was very, very into like game design adjacent stuff. Like I would fill my graph paper notebooks with like grids of like little stick figures fighting, and I'd give them all stats and like just like do that in my free time all the time. And like looking back on it, like I was really primed to like get into D&D once I discovered it. So I did in middle school. I finally found out what D&D was, and I had some friends who were into it. And
nice.
I like dabbled a little bit, but it wasn't until later in my 20s that I really got into it.
Yeah, kind of the same. My video game experience brought me to role-playing games real early. I was probably like 8, 9, and there was a VideoVision location a few blocks away. And VideoVision was our rentals kind of little local chain up here for a long time. Had a few different stores. They had a game called Dragon Warrior.
Yeah.
On the NES. And I rented that over a weekend and then quickly learned the struggle of trying to get your save back after leaving for a week because you had school.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So you go back to VideoVision on a Friday and find out that someone saved over your game. Freaking Chris. And so now you got to start from scratch. Anyways, I eventually picked up my own copy. And then the big one was Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy for the NES. And I still have that same cartridge. I have the maps. I have the box. I have the instruction manual, all that stuff from that original game with one save slot.
What a lucky time to be a kid, I feel. I mean, like maybe every kid feels that way or every adult feels that way. But like like the late 80s and early 90s and even like the mid 90s were like such a golden age for like those role-playing games, you know?
Yeah.
Like Magic became a big thing, D&D became more of a mainstream thing, and then like Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest and
going from 8 to 16-bit and then 16 to 32-bit. Oh, did it go to 32-bit? A little bit.
There was something like a Sega or
I think
something.
the Dreamcast or I can't remember the other one.
Like the Genesis or
the Genesis was 16. The Master System was 8. Doesn't matter. Different podcast. Tabletop, I actually bought a D&D starter kit from Walden Books.
Like just because you were curious? Or?
Yeah, it was interesting stuff. I had Final Fantasy, I had Dragon Warrior, and one thing I loved was the instruction manuals. Because you got paper instruction manuals. I'm an old man back in my day. And going through and just like checking out the difference in the stats between the copper sword and the iron sword and the fire sword and things like that. And kind of wondering about stuff like that. And then I'm just wandering through Walden Books one time, probably looking for a choose your own adventure book. And I see this D&D thing and it's got all of these stats and numbers and stuff. And so I ended up saving up the allowance and buying it, looking through it and loving it. I'm like, wow, this looks exactly like this game Hero Quest that I have, which I was curious about, which is kind of like a one-shot, like a D&D one-shot. So there was that. And then my other familiarity with D&D was, again, from PC games. And I think it was, I cannot remember the name of the company that produced them, but the Dark Sun series of games, things like that. They were on the PC, probably 8-bit era.
I feel like D&D, like it's very popular with like middle school and like early high school age people, but like it's really hard to find a group when you're that age.
Oh yeah.
Especially consistently.
Yeah.
But like you have a lot of time when you're that age. And I vividly remember going through the books again and again and just like reading the stats.
Oh yeah. Do you have more D&D stuff to talk about after high school? Like, is there any?
I mean, my D&D story mostly segs into my theater life.
Okay, so let's start with how we met in theater and how you got into Duluth and things like that.
I moved to Duluth as I was finishing college. I had a Conservation Corps, AmeriCorps internship 2 summers in a row. And so I was up here doing conservation work on the rivers and streams and lakes in the Duluth area. And I didn't know anybody. I found a house on Craigslist and I was looking for something to do. So I went to Rogue Robot, which had just opened at the time.
Nice.
And there were groups there looking for more players. And so I joined a group playing D&D.
What year was this?
2012.
2012. Okay.
Yeah. And while I was playing D&D there, I ran into an old friend from high school who was in town. And so I joined her group and we just played for a bit.
Nice.
And then I realized that I missed theater and I wanted a community of my own. And so that same fall, I auditioned for Singing in the Rain at the Duluth Playhouse. I had just that friend that I was playing D&D with, me and her went to go see Hair, which would be the first time I saw you, Scott.
That's right.
Saw you all the way.
I was going to bring that. You didn't see me all the way.
Well,
you saw me some of the way.
I saw a lot.
You've seen a lot of me since then.
I have. I've seen most facets of you, I would say, Scott.
Yeah, I'd say you're probably about 98% clear.
Probably have a few secrets, yeah. Yeah, not quite platinum, but gold.
No, we still got to get closer for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, I'm glad you mentioned the hair thing, because I always remember for some reason it showed up in a Facebook memory or something like that, some article on hair, and I had clicked on it and I saw a commenter from a kid named Matthias Valero.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I do remember this.
Huh.
It might have been on the Playhouse page, would be my guess, saying that you had seen it and that you wanted to get back into theater.
No way.
Yep. I'm not kidding.
Wow. Holy cow.
Yeah. I might have to go back and look for it. It would be, again, in the Duluth Playhouse Facebook post, 2012, around the hair articles, July.
That's amazing. I mean, wow.
I thought I told you about that before. No, that's why I said it so casually.
So in a way, Scott, you getting naked on stage with a bunch of theater-ass theater people.
Theater-ass theater people. Okay.
Put it that way. Moved me to follow a life course where I met my wife, led to twin portals.
You were already going to do that.
I don't know if I would have. If hair had been just blah, I would have been nah, maybe I'll just keep doing engineering and not worry about theater in my 20s.
Hair was a hell of a story too.
Yeah.
And then I just kept rolling through theater. I had been at it for 4 years at that point. So for me, I had, auditions lined up, had my rehearsal schedule lined up. I'm not really doing anything else. And I'm not looking for something to do with this X-ray degree I just got. So
so that coincided well with 2014, which is when the 5th edition D&D manuals came out. And then from there, D&D became like a huge mainstream thing.
You skipped my favorite shows there on 13.
Do you want to go through all of our shows?
I just want to mention them real quick.
All right, do it.
I'm going to talk. First, there was Godspell, which you weren't in, but you and Angela were both working backstage. Opposite side.
Working my ass off.
You were working. Oh, that's right. Well, I mean, you weren't in the production. You were working backstage.
Yeah.
Helping raise Pascal into the air all by yourself. I forgot about that part, but yes, you did that. Evita, which I emotionally checked out on. Very hard.
I had a lot of fun in Evita.
I bet you did.
And then that led to Spamalot, right? That was the next one?
Went into Spamalot, which was one of my favorites of all time now.
So we met Kendra.
Yep.
Justin didn't come along for a couple of years, and the Brophies as well. They were around.
I didn't really meet Justin until, I don't even know when. Probably until our Skywild game.
Yeah. Wow.
Because I cut out of theater in 2015.
I suppose.
After Eastland, and you guys went into, I think it was Joseph.
Yeah, I think that was his first big show.
And so that's where he jumped in.
Yep.
Yeah.
But we did a lot of shows together, Scott.
Yeah, I wrote them down.
Yeah.
Singing in the Rain, Godspell, Evita, Spamalot, Peter Pan, Anything Goes, Les Mis, White Christmas, JC Superstar, and Improv.
So it's, a casual 9 shows of like 2-month rehearsal processes.
Plus the
performances. And then we got into improv and D&D.
A little bit of improv stuff. We didn't. Our improv crossover wasn't huge.
No.
I think I was kind of heading out when you were coming in.
Yep.
And then I sort of heard you and I think it was Matt Smith talking about D&D and you and David talking about D&D and things like that. And I was able to horn in on one of your new games. You're starting up a Skywild campaign.
Yeah, we played through the whole Horde of the Dragon Queen and Rise of Tiamat campaign.
Yes, that was before I got in.
Right. And so that was like my big DMing experience, I would say, like my formative DMing experience.
Yeah.
And then like a few random side games from there. And then the Skywild is like, okay, I'm going to do like a homebrew thing and make it amazing.
I didn't know about the homebrew part.
Oh yeah. It was quite homebrew. Although
I wasn't expecting it, I should say.
Right.
I wasn't expecting it. That's different. Not that I wasn't ready. I just wasn't expecting it.
So the Skywild campaign was a little traumatizing for Scott and for most of the group.
Thank you for adding most of the group.
There were a few factors at play. Like it was like a 7-player game at first, which was already a challenge.
Plus an internet person, I believe.
Plus an internet person.
Wasn't someone Skyped in?
Everybody was in. Yeah.
So that's 8 people around the table plus Sylvie.
Plus our dog. And then everybody had like beautiful backstories, and I thought I'd like surprise them all.
Yeah. By the way, I just want to interject real quick. This is my first like big D&D character, and I have been working on it at work where I'm an X-ray tech, which at a local clinic, which means I have a lot of time to work on it. Mm-hmm. I did that thing where you make 3 pages of backstory and justify everything on your character sheet. I shouldn't have done that.
Well, I think there's value in it, and I hope that you got something out of it because in the end, our characters' pasts drive them forward, no matter what happens in life. And I think that Erster Greenwood was a very rich character with a strong personality, and he was very driven because of what he lost. Because he lost a lot in session 1 of the campaign.
Is Erster Green Needle?
Green Needle, thank you.
First of all.
Greenwood.
Yeah. It wasn't anything out of the usual. Here's the thing. It's kind of how a D&D campaign has a chance of starting. Just like that. I just wasn't expecting it, and then I did a poor job of adapting to the conditions afterwards because I wasn't an experienced role player at that point.
Sure.
I was really tied into the choices I had made. Like I was emotionally invested in these choices that this character had made over his past before you had any idea what they were. And I give you like a 3-page document of backstory. What am I expecting you to do with that? Memorize it? Hell no.
I mean, we were all figuring things out, right? Which helped us a lot.
Oh, no animosity. I'm just talking about.
I'm not saying that.
How it went.
Yeah, like.
What'd you do?
Well.
What'd you do to us? What'd you do to us?
I just wanted to finish my thought.
Okay.
That. No, you're right. And so what I did is I ate them all with a Tarrasque. Like, session 1. This is before session 0s were really big.
Good point.
And we would have really benefited from one because I thought it'd be a really cool idea to be like, guess what, guys? You're in a Fallout game, essentially, and you're going to get eaten by a Tarrasque and the world's going to end. And you're going to be frozen inside the Tarrasque's belly for like 2,000 years.
This was before the pizza got there.
Was it? Oh my God.
Yeah.
This was like the intro, yeah. And then they wake up in the belly of the Tarrasque encased in crystal, and they like climb their way out, and all of a sudden the whole world is like shattered, and they're on floating islands, and it's wonderful, like Lovecraft meets Miyazaki, like, wow, look at this cool world. Of course, that doesn't take into account character backstories much. And so I tried to like bring things back, but I don't think I did Erster very good justice at all. And also didn't help that like my plan for the campaign was to follow it was one of the source books that came out around that time. It was the Book of Mega Dungeons. What was it called?
I don't remember.
Had the Sunless Citadel.
I only have these. Is it in there?
No. The Yawning Portal, Tales from the Yawning Portal.
Yeah.
It was. And I was like, Mega Dungeons are cool, right, guys? And everyone was like, yeah. And the first dungeon is this huge, like, sprawling 3-story mega dungeon called the Sunless Citadel. I
Loved that part.
It was a cool dungeon.
I love that part.
Yeah. It took us probably, like, I don't know, at least a few months to get through it.
Yeah.
And so it was a combination of, like, them having these rich backstories, all of that being blown away, and then being locked in a cave for 3 months of real time with like 7 or 8 players that led to a lack of player satisfaction in engaging with their backstories, which is very valid. And I tried to like do little like breadcrumbs, like here are your descendants coming to talk to you, and like here's like the ruins of your home, and look at that. But it wasn't super satisfying. And in the end, we were like, and all anybody wanted was to like find their way back home. And so that became like the thrust of our whole campaign. It was like, how do we reverse this calamity? And it was okay. It kind of petered out after a few years. We had some good times.
It just did the D&D campaign thing.
Well, it kind of transitioned right into Twin Portals, and so
in a way, like I sort of harnessed, hijacked maybe that energy.
For good.
I just going back to I enjoyed that campaign. That first thing was traumatic, and I'm like, is this really what this is? Did I spend all this time and now we're just going to toss that away?
Yeah.
And so that was sort of the sense of loss that I had. Like, I felt like I was being told the story rather than being a part of the story. I did not role play well. I was very young, and I wanted, as that goes, I should say, as inexperienced. It wasn't what I had pictured in my head, and my mistake was picturing something in my head, I think. Like how the thing would go, how the session would go, things like that. So I wasn't as adept at collaborative storytelling, for example. A lot of single player syndrome, main character.
That's what we were all coming from, though. I mean, like, this was kind of before, like, all these actual play shows were really huge.
There was also, I felt like a bit of an outsider because you were pulling directly from your prior campaign, which most of the players had already been in.
Right. Yeah. There were some characters from that.
Yeah. So I felt a little bit of an outcast on that because I didn't have knowledge I couldn't draw on any of that for any strategic value or entertainment value or things like that. So just a few combinations, and then a player with not a lot of patience or experience is what happened there.
And then you were like, let's take this and make it a podcast.
So this was the summer of 2018, and I had been streaming on Twitch for about 3 years at this point.
Right.
And having a good time doing it. And I started watching Acquisitions Incorporated, which was the Penny Arcade actual play. And they had just finished a well-produced series of like 10 episodes in their studio at their offices. And I started thinking, why can't we do this? I mean, I think the players around our table are often funnier. That's always subjective.
We were all theater and improv people.
Yeah.
So we had the chops in theory.
I felt like we had a stronger background to do well earlier on, because this was a time when I was comparing myself versus everything. We could do, we're better than them at that. We're better than them at that, blah, 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 blah. So then I ended up going to PAX West 2018, and I sat, I can't remember where, probably like 10 rows back for the Acquisitions Incorporated live show at Benaroya Hall in Seattle, Washington. 2,200 people watched D&D with me, and we were all cheering and roaring and laughing and all this stuff. Huge theater production, and I thought we absolutely can do this. We can find a way to get audio. All we have to do is get sound into computer. That's it. That's it. Just get sound into computer. We can do that. I've got enough gear. I was picturing it on the plane on the way back.
You made it happen, yeah.
Came back and I said, hey, I think we could probably do this if you're interested. If you want to try doing this, we'd have to cast it. We'd have to figure out the right chemistry. God, we did a Google form, didn't we?
We did.
We did a Google form. We had our friends fill out
professional
application, just trying to get backgrounds and what people would want to play and what they would do, things like that. And just started having some fun with the idea, and it was all possibility at that point. There was nothing on the line. It was just, let's try a thing.
Yeah.
That was it. Let's try a thing. Proof of concept. That's my big thing. Is it possible to do? Let's give it a shot and find out.
Well, I remember we actually had a session 0 too, which was very helpful. Where
yes.
we came to it without like a ton of like really specific designs for the show beyond like we're going to do a D&D show and it's going to be live.
Yeah.
And so like I remember it being
we were
pretty
going to do a
collaborative.
D&D show, and some of them were going to be on stage. None of it was actually live. I want to make sure we distinguish.
It was live to the theater audience.
So we did some in front of a studio audience, but we were never ever producing something that was streamed at the same time it was happening. It was all recorded, but we did record for the first 5 years, like all remote sessions, one place or another. And every third episode was done in front of an audience of friends.
Do you remember like at that session 0, what we decided our goals were as a show, like what we were doing it for? Because we kind of collaborated as a group. And I remember part of it, but I don't remember the whole mission statement that we came up with.
God, I do not remember a mission statement at all.
We had a brief one. Yeah. I remember that we wrote down, we wanted to entertain people and inspire people. And there were like 2 more parts to it that I forgot since then. But those 2 have been in my like, mind crystallized.
I'm sure Kendra's got it on a note somewhere.
I think she does.
She must have it in note somewhere.
Yeah, I really want to find that note.
No.
I think they were really good. I remember them being very noble and high-minded. And I was like, okay, people are going to get something out of this.
So long ago.
Yeah.
Well, so many years ago and so much work ago. I remember it because of the picture. I think it was you took a picture of me and Kendra and Beth. We were at the atrium of the Zeitgeist.
Right.
Just sort of hammering out thoughts of first players and how is this going to be with a microphone and what things from a table game can we not have and what things can we absolutely have? What things should we think about adding? Things like that. And how are we going to adapt to all this? And we ended up just working. It was the 3 of us and then Justin Peck, mostly in the rehearsal space at the Teatro when they still had that.
Mm-hmm.
Which was a room of flat walls and high ceilings and lots of reflective surfaces.
And fans also.
And and a good HVAC system, a good loud one, not necessarily as much for changing the temperature, but definitely made noise.
Uh-huh.
That was a lot of fun. And we just used a Blue Yeti microphone. Just the single one Blue Yeti set to omnidirectional mode. The one I just took it down from my Twitch streaming setup every month and hauled my 1 bag of gear down and set it up with a little weighted mic stand. I said, okay, everyone shout at that point. That 1 microphone sitting in the middle of the table. And then
we did
spent hours editing it.
How long do you think that first one took to edit? Do you remember?
Oh, God.
We kept them pretty long, too. We were like, we want this to be like an actual home game of D&D. So let's do like
2.5
hour episodes.
There's a 3-hour episode in there that I hate. Just because it's 3 hours and that's all.
Would you say you have a masochistic streak, Scott?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did the 2 half marathons for no particular reason.
That's what your mind goes to. We could cut to like B-roll, non-video stuff for a bit and then cut back and be like, hey, this is our first episode. And we just lost video for a bit.
What was the last thing we were talking about? So yeah, full disclosure, the recording stopped for the video. For about 40 minutes, it feels like. I just happened to glance over and see that ISO record was no longer on. I have no idea how or why that happened. I haven't stress tested as much as I should have.
This is kind of our stress test.
Yeah, it feels that way. Oh, it sucks, but this is kind of what doing this has been like. It's been a lot of problems happen, and then you got to figure a thing out. And this one was clearly not our doing, which is nice because the last month I screwed up and forgot to have Kendra's microphone on for the final episode.
These things happen.
I don't like when they happen though. This is why you have more than one person running production on, in
an ideal world.
In an ideal world.
Yeah.
God, I was like more insecure now than I was when I started this.
I mean, so like I'm a huge fan of the podcast Hello from the Magic Tavern.
Okay.
I used to listen to it all the time. It's a bunch of Chicago improvers, the folks who make the Jackbox games.
Okay.
And they have recorded like literally like 600 episodes at this point. They've done like big convention halls, tours. It's an incredibly funny show, and I could go on about it. But they've had several episodes where it's like the mics just didn't work this time. Sorry, everyone. We only had the backup mic and it's really low quality, but we're going to do our best to make it work. And like, it's still great. It's still listenable.
For me, I'm someone who's constantly striving for that perfection, which is just stupid. It's just dumb to hold yourself to that level, which is what I try to do all the time. And I've no experience in this is the thing. Every time I've pushed Twin Portals forward, I was pushing myself into something I hadn't done before.
Yeah, that's brave.
It's nuts. Anyways.
It is nuts.
Anyways.
Frickin'
take about 10% off there, Squirrely Dan.
You are a little bit nuts, my friend. It's good to be that way.
All right, we'll pick it up like nothing happened. So we did it to try it. And something that shocks me is that our third episode was our first live show.
Just like how quickly we went into it.
How nuts is that? So it's just like try it twice and now go do it in front of people.
It was a blast.
It was a great time. I love that.
Our audience was so supportive.
Very into it.
Made a big difference.
Yep.
Yeah.
We talked to Mary Fox, who was the artistic director down at the Teatro and for Renegade, I believe.
It was Renegade.
I don't know exactly the relationship, but she was very enthusiastic and still is. She actually saw the last live show we did.
Yeah.
And that was the first live show she had seen and couldn't believe it. It's a different language. D&D is a different language to somebody who's never seen it before. They have no idea what you're talking about when you say, roll a D20 for insight.
Yep.
Things like that. That means nothing to other people.
Yep.
But we were able to produce a show that she at least apparently had a good time with. I don't know how much she actually
She had a family member who was, or
yes,
Zach's family member was super inspired. And
yes. Oh, nice.
Yeah. So if you're watching, thanks for coming.
Nice. I remember that.
I was really glad to hear about it.
Yeah. And then it built into a bigger project. So Twin Portals, so we did it for a year. So that was 18 to 19. And then during that year, I had heard that the local arts administration board, ARAC, Arrowhead Regional Arts Council, somebody had said that they had more grants than they had people applying for grants. And someone had mentioned to me that because we were doing live shows and we weren't charging any money for them, what we were doing, and actually the second thing didn't even matter, what we were doing counted as arts programming, so I might be eligible for state money to improve it and to continue doing Twin Portals. So I wrote a grant. It was called an Artist Access Grant. It is only eligible to people who have never had an arts grant before. Mm-hmm. And I wrote a short thing about it, and I was basically just banking on the 10 years of theater experience that I had, saying, I've got all this stuff. I know all these people. I got a location lined up. We can use it. The AD's into it. And I got my first $1,000 grant for Twin Portals, which got us off that Blue Yeti mic and onto 6 individual microphones.
Yeah.
For the first time.
Some of our team members had some grant writing experience too, so we kind of put our heads together. And
yes, I reached out to a lot of people. Kendra was one, and then a woman named Katie helped me out. She had some grant writing experience. And then somebody I had been working with for the Duluth Homegrown steering committee for the music festival. She was also a professional grant writer.
Nice.
And there was one time where I was able to help her out with something, and she said, all right, I'm getting you that money. So I handed her the grant application, or the one I had filled out. She said, okay, I'm going to change this, and this, why this, stuff like that, and ended up getting the money. So now instead of using the one microphone, we're using 6, and it changes everything. It changes everything about the sound. But now I'm also buying microphone stands and XLR cables and backup cables and memory cards and all this other stuff. And so now it just, now the things just starts building and building and building. That was in 2019. And then we had March of 2020, did our live show, which was memorable for reasons I won't remind you of.
Oh, March 2020. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Vividly. Yeah.
It was traumatic. We'll save that one for later. And then everything shut down because of COVID. It was March 2020.
Yeah.
And so we had to stop doing Twin Portals because we didn't want to kill each other.
And we wanted to meet live to process what had happened in that episode. We were like, let's hold off. Yeah.
It was really weird timing, wasn't it? All things considered. That happened, and then we couldn't see each other for 9 months, essentially. I think we got back together in January. January of 21. We didn't see each other. We went out to Justin's place and we socially distanced. We were still masked up and 6 feet away.
What a time.
It was the first time we had seen each other. Except for, talking over Animal Crossing.
With the howling wind of Lake Superior.
Yeah. And we're like, God, I'm so happy to be outside.
Yeah. Oh, that's 2020, man.
Just continuing to build that up real quick, finishing up the Twin Portals tech story. It was during COVID that the Minnesota State Arts Board realized that with people not being able to get together, their arts grants needed to be adapted. They needed to give people money to find new ways to entertain and give arts experiences, because if people can't get together, there still needs to be art somehow. They changed their grant formatting so that I was now eligible because I had received a grant in the prior 3 years. That was their qualification.
Yep.
The big condition is that we continue to produce content for people in greater Minnesota.
Yep.
Which is what we've done every year.
We've never charged for it.
Yep.
We've done some fundraisers for Zeitgeist.
That's right. Yeah. You've hawked off your skills.
Yeah. It was fun. It was really fun.
Did you do one during Homegrown?
Yeah, we just did one this year, actually.
Nice.
With the winners from a few years ago from Spirit of the Times fundraiser.
So people will bid on is it a silent or a live auction for that one?
I think it was a live auction.
You got a live auction?
I don't know. I wasn't there for the actual auction.
So people, you tell them what it is.
I don't know. But, well, basically, so all of Scott's like big changes in Twin Portals were due to his technical powers growing and the grant writing growing. For me, it was all like subtle stuff behind the curtain that I never really showed off or talked about. For me, initially, it was just like how I structure the episodes and how I put together all the materials I want to include in a live or a podcast D&D session. You know, it was already a big shift from like just a home game of D&D.
Yeah.
Like I really wanted to make sure there was like no dead time and like all my avenues were covered to some degree.
These were things that we had talked about even before session 0.
Yeah.
Like what do we like or not like when we listen to D&D, things like that. And because we're theater people and we understand timing and dead air and the need for silence in certain areas, but we also understand when it gets awkward.
For sure. So, yeah. So like my organizational techniques evolved constantly. But also we tried something, Kendra kind of spearheaded it actually. She encouraged me to do catered D&D events.
Oh, that's right.
At Zeitgeist.
Yeah.
And we looked for other spots too. We only did a few of them. We kind of like tested the waters and I found that it was really fun, but not something that I wanted to like make my own side business.
Yeah.
You know, it was more like if the event arises, I'd be happy to do this.
Yeah.
And so I came up with a couple one-shots and ran some games of D&D for strangers.
Nice.
Along with catered dinners. And it was a great time. We did it maybe like 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
And then also as a fundraiser thing.
Yeah.
As a service. And then since then, that's led to me getting involved in other businesses around the state of Minnesota that do that kind of thing. So there's Heroes B&B is one, or DD&D, I think Dragons, Drinks, and Dungeons.
Dungeons and Dragons and Drinks?
I think it's Dragons first. But yeah, Dragons,
I don't remember.
Drinks, and Dungeons. But anyway, these people are coming to Duluth. Like they want to expand to this area. And they've heard about Twin Portals and they're like looking for DMs. And so they reached out to us and we made these connections. And so I've since done some fundraiser events and other things in the cities with Heroes B&B. And I'm going to DM the first event with DD&D here in Duluth at Ben Paddle in the next month or so.
Yeah, something
in
like
June.
That.
And so it's just kind of this weird thing, like it's these subtle ways that doing Twin Portals has kind of like helped the scene grow in Duluth and brought people together, you know?
I have a hard time taking any credit for that. Like I love that the scene is becoming less fragmented. That's the one thing I've always heard is that games are so isolated. No one really knows the other things that are going on in town, which makes sense. I get that. I'm kind of the same way. This is also climate-wise, this is an area where people have to hunker down for 6 months out of the year because it gets extremely cold. I mean, used to and doesn't really anymore.
Which is why we love our board games and role-playing games so much.
Exactly. Anyway, so you started doing more Heroes D&D stuff or more DMing as a side gig, which is a nice thing to say. I mean, you also had that feature in Dice Envy.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, randomly. Thank you for setting that up.
Yeah, I am on the Dice Envy email list, and they were doing interesting DMs thing.
What's up, DM? Tell us about yourself.
Something like that. And I'm like, well, I got a guy who's an environmental engineer and hosts a podcast.
Yeah.
You're liking having a podcast, aren't you?
I like talking with you, Scott. I mean, what was the question you just asked? Sorry, you reminded me of Expedition 33 and I just got in the zone right away.
We were talking about, the next thing on that list was skills we started with or built along the way. I don't know. Do we want to talk about that this episode?
Well, we kind of already have.
Yeah.
In varying degrees.
Yeah. So your skills, organizational, improvisational, what other stuff goes into, like, what other skill sets are important for preparation for a dungeon master?
For DMing? Probably like scheduling is a big one, which you actually helped a lot with in Twin Portals. You did pretty much all that.
Yeah.
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 So you're very good at that.
No, I'm just, I'm a pit bull. I just get on people. Like, I just need an answer on this. That's it. Just, are you available now? This, or this? Yeah.
So like as an example, most of our Twin Portals recordings are scheduled like 6 months out. And that's just how hard it is sometimes to schedule a game of D&D. So if you feel like you have a hard time, just know that it doesn't get easier usually in life. You just got to kind of get more ahead of it.
Probably a good time to talk about why we're making the change.
Sure.
Yeah. It seems like we were kind of going to place this near the end of the episode, I think.
Sure.
So we wanted to change the story a little bit. We wanted to change what kind of stories we were telling. And we realized there are a lot of stories. There are a lot of people doing the same thing we've been doing.
Well, and also we've kept our format very consistent, like to the audience in Twin Portals. And we've had a lot of ideas and like things that we've like thought about exploring, but we've stuck to the format pretty closely.
That's for me. That was probably for my benefit.
Yeah. Yeah. But like, you know, as we are trying new things, like it gives us a little more flexibility to find what works and to stretch a little.
We did a few offshoot episodes. That was it. But we've never taken the time to just talk to the audience or talk to each other as people, you know,
with a mic on anyways.
With a mic on. Yeah. Like, as a production wise.
Yeah.
You know, we haven't taken the time to discuss the way things have gone and choices we made and things we've done different and things we learned and things we wish we'd started earlier or stuff like that. So,
yeah.
And we're going to have some episodes that are just fun stuff too. I hope.
We made a big list. We have a lot of ideas of content that's like some more like on the education side and some more on the
gaming
like
technique, like
creative side,
in the weeds, like inside baseball, I think is probably the best way to put it. Like you had talked about breaking encounters. I had kind of wondered about exploring what DMs look for in character creation. Mm-hmm. You know, what things do you need or not need? And then we also want to talk about the artistic stuff too, like or production stuff, like how people could get funding.
Yeah.
I think
a lot of people want to know that.
Yeah. Like I've done a panel before on grant writing, mostly about introduction to grant writing and not necessarily how to be a good grant writer. Although I think I need to broaden my scope a little bit.
Well, you've reviewed a ton of grants, so like you have a kind of a broad experience in that world.
Yeah, I for someone who didn't specialize in it and never went to school for it, I'd say I'd probably have way more than the average person. So I think I'm a decent resource for someone looking for an artistic grant in the state of Minnesota.
Yeah.
And then tech experiences, things like that. But we're going to be figuring this out. It's going to be a lot of starting and stopping. Clearly. Everything's an adventure with this.
Yeah. For me, there are so many things I would love to try. And so I'm looking for input. For one, I'd like to see like what people haven't seen before or they like to see us, throw ourselves at. I would like to do more like one-off style gameplay and storytelling, like either within D&D or exploring new systems or just like trying scenarios like regardless of the system, just to like see what sticks and what's interesting and try to get really creative with it. Going into like our live shows also, do you want to talk about that for a bit? Yeah. So where season 2 ended, that there's, I'm not going to spoil it too much, but there's a lot of possibility in the world of Twin Portals, our story.
You set us off good.
Yeah, you guys did a good send off. I appreciated it.
Yeah.
We want to try to explore other player characters and more contained stories, like focusing on the live shows, with more of a one-off or like sort of like a semi-coherent arc between the live shows.
Yeah.
With new players as well. And possibly like even changing out players from show to show, depending on the situation.
Yep.
So there's a lot of possibility there. And to me, that's super exciting. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how it plays out.
And all I think about is I have to make new packing lists. How am I going to transport the gear? That's the thing that come into my head. Like, It hasn't been about playing the game in so long. It's always been about the production. Like, I think since I had to get a dolly for the gear.
Yeah.
Once I started carrying 4 totes at a time, I was like, oh, wow, this production's a lot. So I'm excited too, though. I came into this recording with basically just like a week of dread. because I had to tear down the studio and rebuild it, which I hadn't done yet. I procrastinate a lot. This is my own fault. But it's going to be a different experience now. I have been sitting in front of Audacity or Reaper for hours at a time after every episode, and that's not going to be the case anymore. Now I'm going to have new tools. I have a new sandbox to play in, and I have some skills already, which is really strange because I've always been building the skills while I've been doing Twin Portals. But this time I went to school for the skills first. So the video should, have a little bit more of an advantage than the audio did in the early stages. So the audio, I think, will still be good. I don't know how intense I'm going to get with the editing just yet. We'll see how everything goes. This is all brand new to me.
Do you have like a dream for like what kind of video media you want to make in the future? Or is it still kind of like exploring, like just seeing what works and what you like? Is that kind of your main...
I guess I don't know what you mean when you say video media.
Well, like do you have a way that you want to build on what we're doing here in the future? Or is it kind of just seeing how it goes?
Right now, I want to see what interface I come up with. First of all, like, how do I present this? Is it just going to be blank screen, or how are the cuts going to go? How are the transitions going to be? We have gone back and forth on topics like crazy. We've had to start and stop recording. So this is going to be super patchwork. It's going to take a little bit more time, but I have more time and I'm not worried about that. I don't know yet. There's a part of me that's always dreamed about having somebody nearby who is interested in running graphics and doing things like that. But with the amount of work it's taken to get to this point, I just kind of want to see if I can get this to run well first. That's my goal. Can we get this to run well first? After that, I want to make this studio space that we're in now, and we're going to be spending more time in the studio space than on stage. I want to figure out how we can make this quickly more modular rather than the work I had to put into it today. Like, I might move stuff around again, but having done it once, I know I can do it again. I know roughly how much time it's going to take, and I can start making plans in my head about where everything's going to go. Might have to buy some more tables too. Definitely more tripods. There's a lot of stuff in here, dude.
Scott's done some good work.
Yeah. I took my one space and I've done what I can. Is what it is, Anyways, what else we got on this list? You got anything else you want to talk about, bud?
I mean, a lot of things. I mean, maybe we should find a button, though.
What about for episode 1 here? I mean, it's going to be what it is. I stress once I get in front of the camera, and I stress once I get in front of the microphone, and I've stressed about all this stuff for a long time, but I know I feel like I'm getting close to White Harbor here. Is that what was the harbor in Lord of the Rings where they went from? Where they left off the boat. They went to
what was the name of it?
I don't remember it. And now we can't do a D&D podcast if I can't remember the name of that city.
It's like Mythmere.
Anyways.
No. White Shores is where they went to. The Grey Havens.
The Grey Havens. Yes. I feel like we're nearing that beach. Like, I see an end of the road now, but I don't know what happens at the end of the road.
So are you a Frodo or a Bilbo or a Sam?
I don't know yet. I'm building towards an end is the thing. That's the issue. That's the problem, is that this grant cycle ends in February or January, January 30th. And I don't know the vision after that. That's what this is building up to.
Yeah.
So this year is going to be another year of discovery for me. I'm going to be having to learn a lot, clearly, as I continue to look at that ISO recording light.
Hopefully not changing our equipment too much either, just the setup.
I'm not expecting to change the gear much, and I don't know if I can technologically. We're in a really great shape. We need to figure out what to do with it now. We need to get better at this part of it, and that's what we're going to do. So this is probably going to be the most awkward that this is going to go, which is nice because now we're done with it. It's like first rehearsal.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, the future is wide open, and we're just looking for, we're trying to find our way, and we are looking for any input that people have.
Yes, please.
What we can make. Yeah. Scott has a lot of technical knowledge. I have a lot of D&D knowledge. Neither of us are like YouTubers by trade. You have the Twitch background.
A little bit of a Twitch background.
Yeah.
Haven't done it in half a decade though.
Right.
So this is most of my experience now, just doing this sort of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, so our original thesis, or what I remember of it anyway, was to entertain and inspire.
Yay.
And I would like to continue doing that in this format. And hopefully, as it goes on, especially after this first episode,
Yeah.
into like next January, is to like take some of the stress off of you, Scott, and help you find
Yeah,
what the passion, you know?
I ain't worried about that.
I'm not worried about it either.
The stress is going to stay.
Well,
The stress is going to stay.
well, then at least not add to it any more than absolutely needed.
It'll be what it is.
It will
like, that's the thing, is I have to remember at the end of the day, it's just a freaking D&D podcast. It's not the end of the world. Problem is, it's been my world for a long time. That's the thing, is that I've lived and died with the successes and failures, which were the highs and lows did not go very far from median, you know. It was...
Yeah. Creativity that's how it is, you know? You care a lot.
I'm just going to keep driving forward. I'm going to try... I think about the viewer. I try to keep it entertaining as well as useful. And we're going to get what we get at this point. Like, we're just going to hang out. We'll do our thing. Try to have some fun with it. Try to not take ourselves too seriously. That's a big note for me. I should put that on the wall. Probably just paint it up there or something like that. Just have some freaking fun with it. Stop worrying about the breakdown quite so much. And
what I had on my DM screen every episode of Twin Portals in big letters, I would write energy, joy, humility.
Yeah.
Meaning, like, number one, just like keep the energy up. Number two, remember to have fun with it. And number three, like, sacrifice your babies. Don't get too attached to any idea if the players don't care about it.
Yep.
And any episode where I didn't remind myself that early on, I feel like I did a poorer job. Like, they were so key to making it fun for me and hopefully for you guys too.
Well, yeah.
So, yeah.
The other players are the better barometer for that, because my brain was on the tech for about episode 20 on. Like, that's, I sacrifice so much as an engaging player by thinking about popping peas and making sure people's time is being respected and all that stuff. So it got real weird. I haven't been able to really play a straight D&D game in a long time just because of that. Like,
if you ever feel like it, like without equipment,
I would love to without equipment sometime.
Yeah.
I've got other characters lined up.
Yeah.
We can get going on something. All right. Anything else on this important list? Probably not.
No, join us on Discord and talk about your passions.
Yeah, we'll be on the... God, I hate plugging the Discord.
I love it.
I hate plugging
Brings people
things
together.
Oh, I'm so awful.
Also, like and subscribe. I've never said that before.
Oh, I hate that too. God, I'm so bad at this. I'm so glad you're here to do that.
My coworkers have been wondering what I've been doing for 7 years in this podcast. They've never listened to it or anything, you know, so I'll show them this episode. They'll get it.
7 years.
7 years.
7 years. And never listened to an episode.
They're not D&D people. I've tried. Well, there was one. Ben showed up, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Ben was in Skywild with us.
Yep.
I would hope he would listen to one episode.
I think he did.
It's all good.
He came to a show.
It's all good. No worries. All right. Yeah. We've never wrapped this before, so bye.
Where's the...
Put your heart up. Oh, yeah. Get the click.